What's up, guys? I'm Jules. Thank you for coming back for another video. If you are new to my channel, being brought over because of the Nashville Needlework Market, welcome. I hope that you can get more information about market here, maybe see kind of a little bit more of what I do. But if you want to maybe see market from a slightly different perspective from other people, that's what I'm here for. So it is Tuesday morning, and market ended at 4 o'clock Sunday afternoon, and I drove all day from Nashville to Denver to get home late last night on Monday. So and so it was a very long drive, but I still had all this energy for market, so I felt like I could push through and do it, and I did it. And I'm so glad I'm here today, because otherwise, if I had stopped in Kansas the way that I originally planned to, I probably still wouldn't be home for another couple of hours. And it's made a ton of difference today, just having slept in my own bed last night, and seeing the dogs and seeing my husband, and everything's been great. So how did market go? How do I even explain all this? Well, first of all, I'm going to say that I have some pictures and some video, and I'm hoping that I can intersperse them throughout this video. If I can figure out how to do that in the editing process, that I can show you a little bit more of what market is like, and kind of explain to you why it is so important for cross stitch, and especially for new designers like myself. First thing I want to do is thank Needlework retailer for actually inviting me to the show. They didn't have to. There were some new designers like myself that were there, and there apparently were a lot of other designers that didn't get offered a spot. It's usually pretty full, and I'm very thankful that they asked me to come, and it was far more than I expected. Far more. I also want to say right off, because I know a lot of you guys know like my past history and whatnot. Yes, I saw Ronnie while I was there. I hung out with Ronnie every single day. I owe everything to that guy in terms of just where I'm at right now, in terms of my design and being at market. And we'll get into a lot more of that later. But yes, we did hang out, and he is just as awesome as Who's doing that? Hey! That's Binky. Sorry. So he's every bit as awesome as he has been throughout this entire time of, meeting him and getting to know him. And anyway, him and his wife, Barbara, I enjoyed meeting both of them very, very much. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of particulars with different stores or other different designers or retailers or things like that. That will come later in another video. This is more of just my general impressions of how it was to do market as a first-time designer, and also just for those of you guys who have been with me for years, or maybe months or weeks, depending upon when you found me, and just kind of tell you how it went. Let's see here. So last week, I may pause quite a bit trying to think of all the things. My head is just so full. Last week I left for market on Wednesday morning, and I drove from Denver to like Southern Illinois, stayed overnight in a hotel in Southern Illinois, then drove down. There's a whole route that you can go. I've driven this route before. I have family that live right off of Highway 24, about an hour and a half north of Nashville. And so I've driven this route before. It's completely well known to me. And so I didn't have any anxiety about the travel. But as I drove down, I stopped off at a family member's house and saw some folks that I hadn't seen in a couple of years because of COVID, and that was great meeting those guys, or seeing those guys again. Picked up my mom, not literally. I'm not that strong. Okay, that sounds bad. Mom, I'm sorry. I meant I took my mom. I asked my mom to accompany me to Nashville Needlework Market, and first of all, I have to say this. Big thanks to my mom for coming with me. There are a lot of family-run businesses at market. Nobody is doing this by themselves. I mean, they have spouses, they have parents, sisters, friends, people that work at their stores and whatnot. It's not one of those things where, like, as a as a vendor, as a designer, that I could have gone and done all by myself. That would have been like, that would have been really bad. And so I'm really grateful to my mom for coming with me, and her background in, she used to work for a pretty large company that did dried flower distribution. And so her knowledge of inventory and just keeping things organized, and just her general energy level and positivity were greatly appreciated throughout this whole time. So we got down to Nashville late in the afternoon on Thursday. I think it was about 4:30 when we pulled up. I really expected there to be like, because the registration sort of opened, or not registration, hotel registration kind of like check-in kind of opened, I think at 4. And I expected there to be like a line, but the hotel was pretty well organized, and checked in real quick, got our room, went up to look at our room, and then basically just started moving stuff in. And like within an hour and a half, we had everything upstairs. And for those of you who don't know, the Embassy Suites that it was being held at, when you walk in through your front door, there's a front, like almost like a living space with a couch and tables and TV and all this stuff. And then you kind of walk down part of it. You got your bathroom on the side, and then your bedroom is in the back. And we display in that front room. So a lot of times there's a lot of moving of furniture and moving things around. And while I had mocked up sort of how I wanted things to go, the reality was different when I got there, just because I had forgotten to bring the furniture movers, the little things you put underneath the furniture ends and whatnot. It allows you to push things a lot easier. I just didn't want to do it. I didn't think I had enough product showing there anyway that I needed to say move my couch all the way into the back. So we kind of made do with what we had, and it took a full day to really sort of organize things the way that we wanted to, and to kind of set up in a way that I felt best displayed what we had. And so I was really pleased with it. I think the only thing that I would change going forward is I would make a bigger deal of the big window we had in the front, and the door, actually, like maybe even an outside, something on the outside that would be a something to say, hey, this is what I do, and bring people in. So many times during the 3 days of the show, I'd have people walk by, one way. If they came from, like, if I'm looking out and they came from the right to the left, they would come by and just kind of glance in a little bit. And I know when they glanced in, they were looking at a part of my, wow, look how big my hands are. My hands are so large. So anyway, sorry. But they would come in one way and maybe not see what I was doing. But if they came from the other direction, what usually happened is they would walk by, and then they just kind of glance in through the door and not even pay attention. And then as they got to the window and they could see the actual display of the projects that were up and hanging, they would oftentimes stop and then turn around and come back. And that's how I was able to get people in. So for that reason, a monumental thank you to Daphne Chamberlain for the model stitching that you have done for me. Many people commented on the patterns that they just absolutely loved. The interesting thing was that I've had the Etsy store for about 1.5 years now, and I have a lot of different patterns up. And you guys know from my history that I love to stitch monochrome, black and white things. And a lot of you, like, as far as like the sales on the Etsy store, a lot of people seem to feel the same way. The black and white stuff is very popular. At the show, a lot of the colored patterns were the most popular. So the black and white ones were still, there were some that were still popular, but the color stuff was just amazing, like as far as the reaction. I wonder why, sidebar, I wonder why sometimes, I was wondering on the way there, and as I was there, because I'm like, I started thinking of all the things that I got to do when I get home, and all the stitching that I want to do to just stitch up more models. I want to do designs and stuff, and I'm just like sitting here wondering, like, how do I not get in, as much done as I want to? And it's usually because of this right here, right, girl? And a few others that are hanging around. But they were so excited to see me last night. Zuzu came up, and I walked in the door, and Zuzu came up and grabbed, with her mouth, grabbed my wrist, which she does that when she's very excited to see someone. It's like, stay here, stay here, stay here. I love you. Don't go anywhere. I know, and now you're going crazy. I know. Settle down. You're okay. Your head is so hot. You're thinking so hard, which, yeah, I know. Anyway, where was I? I do these all in one take, so it's one of those things where, let me raise this up a little bit. It's one of these things where it's a stream of, there's Linus. Oh yeah, I put this stuff on the wall. So we've got up here, torn dress. The Linus is done. Look how amazing that looks. That is so awesome. I love it. My Twin Towers is up there. And then I have over here, I have the Raising the Flag. I still have one more. I still have the Eiffel Tower to put up, but it's out in the garage, I think, still. So I'm still unpacking. I just wanted to get this video done. So, but okay, Zuzu, you're gonna have to go away. Go, go, go. All right. So I've already forgotten what I was talking about, but. Oh yeah, so people coming in and looking at everything. That was huge, and the colored patterns were huge. And I got a lot of really great ideas, some modifications of some current patterns, making things maybe a little smaller to work on. I will present, again, I'll present those in a different video later on. And one thing that I want to say, and I'll probably summarize this at the end, is that I'd like to, Zuzu, back up. I'd like to going forward be a little bit more freeform. Well, even more freeform than I've been. I used to always do videos on, like I'd release a video on Wednesday, and I need to kind of back off from that need to do on Wednesday. I want to do quality over just making sure I stay on schedule. So, and I think it will help with quantity as well. I may put out smaller videos, but I just want to let you guys know that like, this video, it's Tuesday. It should come out Tuesday, probably Tuesday night, depending upon the editing process. But going forward, we'll have mostly, you know, it'll be kind of when I can make a video. Okay, hold on a second. Okay, sorry, I had to get the dog to settle down. So anyway, so yeah, videos are going to be, you know, if you're like, okay, it's Wednesday, where's Jules' video? It may be Friday when I put one out. We'll see. So I just want to do a better job of doing things, because I definitely think that YouTube is my best way to tell you guys kind of what's going on. And this channel has always been about expanding and showing you things and introducing you to other things. And I have a lot of folks that somehow find me and are beginner cross stitchers. And so, you know, we're all in this together. We're all trying to learn and trying to like just see new things. And oh my gosh, there were so many things at market. So anyway, so let me get back to it. Now the Embassy Suites is also set up so that there's a large, like they call it an atrium in the middle, where it's like, if you think of like a rectangle where you're, it's just easier to draw it. Hold on. So if you look at my extensive drawing, so if the building itself is sort of a rectangular, then every floor sort of has this general layout where all the suites are sort of like, you know, lined up all along here, and in the center it's wide open from the bottom floor to the top. And so when you're standing at the railing out here, you can see out, and the only thing you can't see is just the people below you, but you can see like all the floors all the way around. And you can kind of see what everybody's doing, and so that's kind of nice. In that market, everybody kind of hangs their designer or their banners for their stores all over, so you can tell where everybody was at, which was really important, because when I needed to register and go to meetings and whatnot for a needlework retailer, it was so much easier when I could just go, there they are, and go down and find them. So, but anyway, so we got everything set up. We opened up on Friday evening, and there were definitely times when it was very slow, where it was like we just weren't getting anybody to come in, and a lot of that was due to sort of the way buyers, when they come to the show, sort of lay out their time. And for a lot of folks, they're looking at specific projects that people are releasing that are maybe they're limited editions. People have these things printed up in advance, and to ensure that they don't waste money, they may say, listen, I only have 200 of this particular thing, you know, and when it's sold out, it's sold out. And so people will know that, and they'll line up for like the opening of the stores, and then they'll go in and get what they need and then move along. But there were a lot of places like that, probably half a dozen stores that had that kind of situation where you could just see the line, like just, it was amazing. And a lot of it was for fabric. The fabric designers and the fabric suppliers had a lot of really cool things that people wanted to see. And so a lot of like, just in the beginning, literally was just me kind of like hanging out at the balcony, just looking around, just seeing what everybody was doing. After it took like a solid hour, hour and a half for things to kind of move on. I started getting people coming in. It's funny because I've been doing FlossTube here for 6 years now, guys, I think. And there are definitely people that know me from FlossTube, but I'd say the vast majority, at least that I could tell, the vast majority didn't know who I was, didn't know about the YouTube channel, came in simply because of the designs, which I appreciated. But I appreciated everybody who stopped in, because I definitely also had people who knew me from FlossTube that stopped by, including a lot of other FlossTubers that were there. Now, again, I'm not going to mention specific names right now, but I was fangirling a little bit in different times, because I'm like, oh, that's so-and-so, oh, that's so-and-so. And, but everybody looked familiar to me. I've watched so many prior years Nashville Needlework Market that when I got there and we were moving in, I was like overwhelmed, because I'm like, I know all these people. It's so weird. And, so I don't know how much anonymity I had or didn't have there. Certainly, so a few people came up to say hi, but, it was just fun. It was so much fun. So Friday was only from like 4 to 8 o'clock at night to put on the display, to have your store opened. And it was a little slow as I anticipated, because as a new designer, I don't think people are going to run in and see what a new designer has. They're going to go to the old standbys, all the old, the stores that were there, that have been there for many, many years and designed for many, many years. So they pay homage to those folks, I think, first, and then eventually, if they're just walking by, or if they're like, okay, I've heard about this person, let me go in and see what they're doing, or it's something like that. And so, and then Saturday was a very long day. It was it 9 to 6, I think. It was an incredibly long day, and my mom and I were so tired because we didn't go to sleep. I think Thursday night when we were like moving everything in, we didn't go to sleep until about 11:30 that night. And then Friday night when we opened, I probably didn't get to bed again until about 10:30 or later or so. And we're getting up at about 6:30, 7ish or so. It's not terrible time. The sunrise was coming through the windows, so it's sort of a natural wake up. And I slept like a baby while I was there because I was so tired every night. So that all worked out fine. But so anyway, so Saturday was, it was pretty slow again to start off. I think about an hour and a half in, I'm not even sure if anybody had come in. And I was like, you know what? I was like, random people would come in and comment and do things. But I was like, you know what? I'm sitting here. Why don't I just start stitching? I'll just stitch up on the wolf while I'm doing here. So I was like looking around, and my mom said, as soon as you start stitching, people are going to start coming in. I'm like, well, that would be great if that happened, but at least I can get something done. So I literally had grabbed everything I needed for wolf, and I had just sat down to start stitching on it. And then we started getting a flood of people coming in, where we'd have 2, 3, sometimes 4 people in the store at a single time. I'd say for those that came in, almost universally, everybody loved the work. They loved the patterns. They loved that it was different from a lot of other places. They liked the variety. A lot of them really did like the monochrome look. And we just started getting stores coming in from all over the country, and super nice folks. I mean, that's the general rule, I think, of the whole entire weekend, was that everybody was ridiculously nice and open and wanted to help and give ideas and suggestions. And so that was awesome. we, I met a lot of people on Saturday. It was definitely my busiest day by far. And so when we were done for the day, we actually went downstairs, and that was really when I got my first chance to truly hang out with Ronnie and his wife Barbara. And I don't want to like mention everybody, but it's because I know I'm going to forget some people. But we were hanging out with them and the folks from Stitchery Express, and I laughed so much and so hard that night. I remember a couple hours into we had dinner. We had like a buffet dinner, and we were just kind of sitting down, and they were just everybody, because everybody's known each other for forever. I'm the newbie here, and the stories that were going around, and it was just, oh my gosh, it was so much fun. And I laughed so much, I smiled so much, my face was hurting before I finally finished things up that night. But that was another kind of late night, probably again like more of a 10:30 bedtime. But woke up the next morning. I mean, I wasn't really tired during the show. I was so excited to be there, and every day was just so much fun. And making all these, meeting all these people, and it was just so much fun. So Sunday, it was 9 to 4 on Sunday, and we'd have, again, like periods where there was nobody there, and it was definitely slower on Sunday, like overall, but that allowed me a chance to really get out and see other people. Before we opened at 9, I was able to kind of walk around a little bit, and there were a few stores like on lower floors that were open that I could stop in and say, hi, I'm Jules, I have Stitching Jules Design, blah, 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 and so, and again, like hardly nobody knew who I was, which was fantastic because I could make it hopefully the best first impression possible. And although I hope I make a good impression on YouTube, we'll see. But anyway, so a lot of super nice people. And then when I went upstairs and I opened, then I eventually as we were busy at first, and then it got kind of dead, and then we got busy again, and it got kind of dead. And so as the day went on, I made a point to kind of go down like to the left and the right of me and try to just go down and meet some other people, that because at that point I knew that I was going to be coming back, and I knew I wanted to come back to Nashville, and that I absolutely wanted to make sure that I knew more of the people that were on my floor, because a lot of times people take the same suites every year, so that stores are people that come to buy are like, all right, I know where this person is, they're up here, make sure I stop in and say hi or see their stuff. So I was like, I kind of have to, get to know everybody. So there were a few that I could not meet, on my, because they were always busy. Every time I looked, there were always more people standing in there, and I didn't feel like walking in and introducing myself when they had customers in there. So there were some people that I just never got to meet that I certainly wanted to, but I'll make it a point next year that maybe during setup that I walk down and just introduce myself. I think it's important to make connections, but the kind of connections that I really wanted to make were those names that a lot of you guys would know if I started rattling them off, but they're well-known design groups and fabric groups and floss stores, things like that, that I just wanted to come in and just say hi and admire their work, because the stuff was exquisite. Some of the stitching that was done, it's so different from what I do, that looking at it up close, looking at it right in front of you, is the only way to truly, for me, to appreciate how amazing the stitching was. And it really inspired me to try and, I'd like to stitch on some different fabric count sizes and try some things out. A lot of people stitch on it's specialty type fabric, higher count fabric. For those of you, if you're trying to remember what fabric is, the lower the number, the bigger the square. So it's like a 14 count is 14 sort of stitches in an inch. 40 count is 40 stitches in an inch. So you can tell how it's there's so many more stitching. There's just so much more variety that I can do, so much more expansion that I can do, that I was overwhelmed at the show, let me tell you. But anyway, so I was able to see a lot of people and do a lot of stuff. And then I just, the show finally ended, and, we finished up, and then I completely, I didn't embarrass myself, but I kind of just, I shocked myself in a little ways, because when everything was over, like as soon as we could stop displaying, like we knew the show was over, we left our door open and we just kind of started taking everything down, because we knew how long it could take, and we knew we were going to leave really, really early Monday morning. We wanted to get a good night's sleep Sunday night, so we knew we only had so much time. So we were like trying to like pull stuff down and do things. And then there was a meeting that I needed to go to, and so I went to the meeting and I came back, and it was like, I don't know, 5:30 or 6 o'clock or something. And my first thought was, I need to go see Ronnie, because, well, I'd seen Ronnie earlier in the day. I went over to his display and saw everything, which was amazing. But you know, the big thing was, I just wanted one final, like I wanted to make sure I said goodbye, and I wanted to make sure that I thanked him again for everything he's done for me to get me to that point. And because I just loved it. And he was always so kind, because he was like, are you having a good time? You know, all these different things. And he's such a wonderful mentor, and it's so important to have one of those. I think you can do it without it. It's a lot easier to have a mentor. And this is like the first time that I've really, in my life, with anything that I've ever done, that I can think of. Now, if I'm insulting somebody, I apologize. But right now in my brain, my only time that I can think of having a mentor that has been this important to me has been now with Ronnie. And he's just, he's a great guy. Both him and his wife are fantastic people. And I was so glad that I got to really spend time with them. But anyway, so I was helping my mom. I'd gone to the meeting and I came back, and everything was starting to kind of hit me that it's over. I didn't need to do anything else. I could pack up and go home. And I was just, I took a break and I laid on the bed, and I was just, my mom's like packing and doing stuff, because she's just a workhorse, she is. And so I'm just kind of laying there, just kind of taking a breath. And all of a sudden I like sat up and I'm like, you know, I thought Ronnie was going to leave Sunday night. So I'm like, I haven't seen Ronnie. I need to go see Ronnie. And so I got up and I virtually ran like down the stairs a couple floors to go like to where he was set up at, and his door was closed and he was all like locked up. And I tried to look in and I couldn't quite tell if he was still there or not. And so I immediately just start like, where is he? Where is he? And I walked downstairs. I finally got like, I went straight downstairs, and I'd kind of worked myself into a little bit of a, you know, what if he's gone and I haven't said thank you? And I'm going to really try hard not to do the same thing right now. But as soon as I saw him, I burst into tears and I started crying. And, oh, okay. If I do it here, I'm going to pause the video, because I'm a sensitive soul. And I'm going to have to pause the video, because I do not want to cry on the video. Hold on. Okay. So, but you know, I just was like, I need to make sure that I let him know like how important it was to me, and to thank him. And I just started crying. I couldn't stop. And there were some other folks that were there, and they know who they are if they watched. I don't think they watched. They don't watch my videos, actually. They didn't know who I was, but that I'd made friends with the day before. And I really kind of like just kind of moved right through them just to get to Ronnie, to give him a huge hug and give Barbara a hug, and I thanked them again and kind of get a little nuts. And you could tell like everybody was super tired and winding down. And I was just like, I need to go and get my head cleared. And, you know, and I wanted to go back down and see everybody, but they ended up not hanging out downstairs very much on Sunday night, because everybody was exhausted and wanted to get packed up so they could leave either that night or early the next morning. So it worked out fine. It took, I mean, I think we were actually done with packing everything up by about 8 o'clock-ish or so. We ordered some pizza, ate some pizza, got everything organized, put everything back, like the part of the couch that I moved and some other things in the room to put it back to where it needed to be. So, you know, and that was my market. And I think that was why it was so emotionally overwhelming when it was over, because I had prepared, you know, I love cross stitching. You guys know that if you've been here for a while. I love this whole craft. You know, I love everything about it. I love its diversity. I love its history. I love so many things about it. And to then become a part of it, like a part of the story, where, you know, not be on the outside as much, but be right there with all these like big names and just, you know, respected individuals in the industry, was so overwhelming that I was so grateful that I just couldn't help the emotions that came out. And so, you know, thankfully it helped me clear my head a lot. So I slept better that night. And we got up early the next morning, like at 5 in the morning. And I drove back the way that I came, dropped my mom off at family's house in Kentucky so she could drive home from Kentucky back to Georgia. And I just made my way back on my like 1,000-mile trip back home, which I did all in one day because I was still on this insane high from being at this show. And everything was kind of just spinning through my head about things I want to do with, you know, with the business, and just changes I want to make to my designs, new designs that I want to do. There's just so many things, and there's so much that I haven't told you in this video that I will explain to you in other videos in terms of some future designs that I want to do. And by future, I mean in the next week or two. The most excited thing that the thing that I'm excited about right now is being back home and being able to start designing again, because I haven't been able to do that for weeks and weeks and weeks because I had to focus on the show. And now I can kind of get back to stitching up the stuff that I have that I need to stitch. I need to like get so much more done, but I can actually start putting out new designs that I have all these ideas. So, but the trip home was really nice. I needed that to clear my head and think about things. It was interesting though, because there was so much rain, like east of Kansas City, Illinois, Kentucky, Missouri. It was a lot of water. You know, the Mississippi looked decently full. I mean, not over full, but decently full. I've crossed over the Ohio, Mississippi, and Missouri rivers on my trek, and they kind of got progressively like less impressive, you know, less water as we went through. I was very fortunate with the weather. The weather was perfect going out there, and then coming back, I had just thankfully missed a snowstorm that had come through like the night before, and there was still snow on the ground in St. Louis, Missouri, and Kansas, but it didn't affect my trip in any way. And you know, like I said earlier, I was originally planning on stopping at a certain point in Kansas and, you know, staying for the night and then driving up this morning. And I thought about it a lot on the trip, and I'm like, you know, I gain an hour when I cross the line into Colorado, and if I can maintain a certain speed and not get hung up by traffic or weather or anything, if I just don't make as many stops, I can push through this and be done. And so by the time I got to the place where I was going to stop, it was like 5:30, 5:45 local time. And I'm like, well, I have an extra hour on that. And I thought to myself, what is more important to me? Like, I feel really good. I have the energy. I know I'm going to get tired towards the end, and I'll be driving in the dark for the last, like, probably through Colorado. But if I get home tonight, I get to see my husband tonight. I can sleep in my own bed. I can wake up in the morning and get like a bunch of stuff done. And it's 11 o'clock now. So I pushed through, and I'm so glad I did. It was so great to be home last night, even though like when I'm laying there in bed, like my mind is still spinning and spinning and spinning with all these things. So, but that was my market. That was my market. And so ultimately the final, what we call TLDR, sorry. TIDL, I don't even know what TIDL is. TLDR is too long, didn't read, or TLDL, too long, didn't listen. Ultimate message is I had an absolute blast. It exceeded my expectations in every possible way. I am even more in love with cross stitch in this whole industry than I was before. The store got my Stitching Jewels design got a lot of great comments. My stuff is now going to be in, I want to say like 25 different stores out there. And if you have a local needlework store that you like to use, and maybe you want to support them and me as well, if they didn't come back from market with a Stitching Jewels design product, ask them. Like, look on my stuff and say like, hey, I'd really like this, because they can reach out to me and I can send things to them. And this is all about helping each other. It's what my website's about, stitchingjewels.com. I have that massive list of floss tubers. I still need to update. I know I still need to update it. I updated the store/designer list before I went. It's easily over 200 different places now. And I have a bunch of more places to add too, because there are a lot of stores, like physical stores or even online stores, that I didn't know about, that I met or heard of when I was at the show. So I've got to add to that. And that's all at stitchingjewels.com. But ultimately, we're on this together. We're all just trying to have fun and do things that are meaningful to us, each individually. And, you know, if we can help people out, I'll help others. Suzu. If we can help others out at the same time, that's all the better. So I'll be back with another video soon to talk about where my patterns are in different stores, and talk about maybe some changes to some current designs. And honestly, I'm just going to start jumping in and doing some. I have so many that are like on the cusp of being published, but I didn't do it before the show because I didn't want to complicate things. But if you've made it this far, thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys. I hope you enjoy the content. Again, I owe so much of this to you guys as well, because over the years you have supported me. You have enabled me like I've enabled you, and you've really had my back with so many things, and I truly appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for 6 years of watching and me blabbering at my phone, honestly, and I just thank you guys so much. So I appreciate you, and I will talk to you soon, and we'll have a bunch more info maybe this weekend. I'm hoping this weekend, maybe earlier. We'll see if I feel like talking. I always feel like talking, but maybe I'll have something out earlier. But you guys take care, happy stitching, and be safe.